Hello and welcome to another episode of the Star Stripes and Anfield Nights stream. My name is Rigo, and tonight, I am joined by Dan as well as Brandon. Dan the man, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good, Rigo. I'm doing good. Someone else called me that today. I feel like that's my new nickname now. I'm no
Like
longer
the
Mr.
easy
Underwood.
go-to one, right? I'm super
It is.
original in calling you that.
It is. Listen, I love it. I love the oldies are coming back. The 2000s are coming back. We've already got Avril Lavigne throwback album with Olivia Rodrigo's new album. Next thing you know, we're gonna get Linkin Park revival. It's just all coming back. I'm just happy to be living in the early 2000s retro.
If Linkin Park does a revival, that would be a story.
I'd be so happy with that.
Chester's
Yeah,
dead, right?
I say I'm not,
Yes, I'm very aware of that, Rigo. It's someone else. Yes, I'm very aware he died in 2017. It was very tragic.
Okay, all right. Just making sure you're up to date. Yeah.
I'm not that out of
holograms
touch.
now.
I'm not that out of touch, Rigo. Give me some credit here, man. I'm not crazy here.
and on that note, from Lincoln Park over to Brandon. Brandon, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good. I'm exhausted, so I'm going to give you my best I can give you. But yeah, as always, I'll give you my best.
Awesome. Well, obviously, great to get our second week installment of Star Stripes and Anfield Nights, trying to give you additional content, especially considering the vast majority of any American audience we might have are most likely working when we go live on our 7:30 UK time streams and 2:30 p.m. Eastern time stream. So, trying to give you a little bit more LFCTR content here. So let's get it started. So let's go right off and recap what's happened in the past week. Some notable moments in the last week. Liverpool on Saturday extended their unbeaten record in the Premier League to 16 matches consecutively. Currently the highest in the league. Second highest would be Arsenal, I believe, with 6. I'll go with you, Brandon. How impressive is that? Continuing our momentum from last year.
I think it's very important to get up to a good start. I mean, with how the season exactly started, going to Chelsea and obviously having all the transfer business right before the Chelsea stuff, it kind of felt like a kick in the teeth that we dropped that game. But to see us rebound, we've had 3 comeback victories this year. It kind of seems like we're in the return of the mentality, monsters that we used to be. Obviously, the way we started against Wolves was borderline unacceptable, like how bad it was in that first half. But to come back out in the second half and just kind of really take control of the game and really not give them a sniff, and then obviously getting the goals late and Bravo, and then Harvey a little bit unfortunate that the ball goes up on own. But, obviously we're taking anything we can get, especially as Man City doesn't seem to be wanting to slow down anytime soon, even with no De Bruyne. You'd feel like there'd be a hangover from the Champions League, but it doesn't seem like it. So obviously to get ourselves started, keep going. Obviously we got a long way to go, a lot of twists and turns to go, but I'm also happy with how the new guys are settling in. Seems like every game, one of them stepping up to play great. Obviously, Sobo is like my one true love of like all time.
And then what a change in confidence, right? Last season it felt like we were waiting for the other shoe to drop, and typically it ended up did dropping, but now it seems we might go down 1-0, but the confidence and the resolve is there to claw it back and pull out, if not a draw, at least a victory.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the big change from last year was not that, the mentality had gone. It was just the fact that everyone kind of realized that they just didn't have it in them anymore. And when you realize that as a professional athlete, it just makes getting back into a game much harder. I think they're able to rescue that at the very end of the year when Klopp really rotated his side and, brought in some of the, Pacetic, brought in Curtis Jones, I think was a big one as well. And then he got bombed out Fabinho and Henderson for that period of time as well. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it just speaks so much just how much that fresh legs just, changes, just what you're able to do as well. We've already talked about it. Brandon mentioned Dom Szoboszlai, the big Dom himself, the handsome Hungarian, the magnificent Magyar. It's just, like I said, I got all the things in the world. It's just, when someone is just, that good and can run for days, it just makes everything easy. You know, and yeah,
Definitely.
the Wolves game. You know, the Wolves game was definitely like, you know, a punch in the face for the most part. I think everyone was just slow. You know, we're historically just not very good after international breaks, especially after 12:30s. The only time I remember us being good is when Klopp would just heavily rotate the side, where he would just throw everyone in that, you know, that didn't play. And in the international break, we would do pretty well. But, you know, he went tried and true, and they started off sluggish. You know, I think someone had tweeted, like, you know, McAllister looks like he traveled, you know, 6,000 miles on one night and had oxygen in Bolivia.
he,
You know,
he
so
flew himself. That's
yeah,
what it kind of felt like.
yeah, no, but I mean, it's understandable that, you know, McAllister like had a tough game. Wolves were up for it. You know, Pedro Neto looks like the business. I think he's the next player to go to Newcastle. Like, if there's another player that's going to be signed from Wolves, it's going to be Pedro Neto. And I mean, he'd be great at United. United need a left winger. Like, he would be the best replacement for Jadon Sancho. I mean, listen, he's the best replacement for Jadon Sancho at the moment. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, yeah, it just makes such a big difference. But, you know, I feel like that group mentality never left. I think they all just kind of looked at each other and just realized we need to refresh this. You know, we need to bring in as many fresh legs as we can to revamp this team. And, you know, they look up for it. I mean, I think the biggest change is that Klopp looks up for it. Like, he looks like he's having the best time of his life. He's like, this is the best thing I ever have. I have a bunch of 20-year-olds running around doing what I tell them to do.
And definitely, and you touched on two things in your opinion there. Firstly, Dominik Szoboszlai. Holy cow! I don't think any of us realize what a player he is. And I know I myself, I don't watch as much Bundesliga. I try to watch as much as possible. Here in the States, it's on ESPN, so it's pretty readily available these days. ESPN's package, actually, they've stepped it up. They have La Liga, Bundesliga, along with FA Cup, Carabao Cup, etc. And I try to catch as much as possible. But wow, like, unless you see him week in, week out, you don't see how much effort this guy puts in and how talented he is. But apart from that talent is that mentality, in that drive, and that energy just to keep running 90 minutes every single match, 90 plus minutes every single match. And with all that running, today he was named the Standard Chartered Player of the Month for August. What a great beginning to his Liverpool career. Not rumors, but reports circulating that Klopp believes Dominik Szoboszlai can go down as one of the best midfielders in Liverpool Football Club history. At this particular moment in time, I would not argue against that. I think he has all the makings, both physically, talent wise, and especially mentality wise, to go down as one of the greats. Brandon, do you share that same notion?
I do. I mean,
Or like, should be temper it a little bit. It is only five
let
matches.
it go. Let it go. I mean, already just build the statue of him already. Like, that's not. I can see it. Like, he has been absolutely. We've seen like players kind of struggle to adapt to Klopp early on. I mean, it took Robbo a few months before he could displace Alberto Moreno. Like, it's taken some players some time, and he's just a fish to water for this team. He's perfect. I mean, I'm kind of the same. I can't sit there and say I watched him in the Bundesliga. You know, I didn't know anything about him until we signed him. But then I saw kind of like they put all the graphs up, and it just seemed like mouth watering. Like, he does everything that we need and everything that we want. And his team hit the ground running has been perfect. Like, player of the month, player of the year already for me. I think I said on the show, like, he could start scoring own goals against us. And I'm like, nobody does it better than he does still. Like, he can like that. He's perfect. It's like nobody can do that better than he can.
Man, he's absolutely incredible. I don't even have to ask you, Dan, as far as your opinion. You're number one cheerleader for the guy, and I really can't blame you for that, because damn.
Well, so I watched him a lot in the Bundesliga, and I was very surprised about how good he was so fast. My big turning point was actually preseason, because when I was watching him, Rigo, I didn't mean to interrupt you for your question, but I feel like this to be said. I was looking at him like, oh, this guy could be the next Steven Gerrard. I know we say that a lot, and it's like sacrilege at times, but I literally watched Szoboszlai, and I'm like, you could put him as a center mid, and he'd be the best center mid in the team and in the Premier League. You can play him as a right winger. He'll score you like 15 goals or 15 assists. You can play him as a double striker, like with Darwin. You can literally have Darwin and Szoboszlai just play as like a double pivot striker, and he would just do absolutely amazing. Like, there's just so much you can do with him. And I think the thing about Szoboszlai that I just love is just how much he wants the responsibility. Like he's not
Yeah.
someone that shies away from it. He's like, tell me what you want. Like we went to a midfield too. Essentially, we went like from 3 midfielders to 2 midfielders against Wolves, and we looked like we dominated.
With him and Curtis, and they bossed it, man.
Yeah, because they kept the ball, they moved it, and I think that's what about Szoboszlai. I think that I think there was a report saying that Liverpool's head of data analytics who's part of the transfer team, is like, we need to sign Szoboszlai. Like that was the big push from looking at your Kevin Turams and your Mano Kones. He's like, listen, this is our data. We need to go get Szoboszlai. And that's what kind of triggered that movement to go get him. And they all got convinced on him. And, he's been in that Red Bull pressing system, so he's used to pressing. But I think it's just absolutely amazing how quickly he's adapted. How he doesn't look off the pace. That's usually the big thing about the Bundesliga. Everyone just looks slower, but they're just
Speaking of pace, he's the second. Is it the second or the first? Because I saw different tweets come out. Fastest time in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think he was clocked at 36. Yeah, 36 kph. I think it was first, or I think it's like first for the weekend, but like second fastest for the league so far.
But like all time, or what do you mean? Like this?
No, I think it's for the league.
Was it all time?
Yeah, I think it was like first for the weekend, but like second for like the Premier League this year. Because I think Mudryk still has the fastest recorded pace, if I remember correctly.
Okay,
I think it's Mudryk. Or maybe it's
on top of stuff. I got hyped. I thought it was like second all time recorded speed in the Premier League.
I'd
still pretty impressive, making that run to track back and cut off that attack and let McAllister gain the ball back that he had lost. Just absolutely awesome. And like you said, Brandon, earlier, mouth-watering. We were so parched these past couple of seasons, namely from that right center mid spot, as far as athleticism, drive, the ability to cover, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And wow, we really hit the jackpot. Along with winning the Standard Chartered Player of the Month for August, Dom is currently the top most printed name on kits this season for Liverpool. Top 5 of that list, Dom leading number 1. Second would be King Mohamed Salah. Third, Alexis McAllister. Fourth, Trent. And fifth, Darwin Nunez. I assisted with that Darwin Nunez numbers. I did order a kit for my son with Darwin Nunez's name on the back. So kudos to me. Anywho.
I have your stats. I have your stats for you. So since 2021, I want to look this up. Kyle Walker has 37.31 kilometers per hour. Ched Dionze Ogbeni, he has 36.93. So almost like third since 2020. So he's the third fastest player. He's ahead of Rudiger, Johnson, Traore, Salah, Lamptey, Mudryk, and Gordon. So he's ahead of all the pace merchants. And he's run 57 kilometers this year. He's run 7 kilometers more than any other Liverpool player. So
that's absolutely insane. And with that vase of flowers there, I'd rest Dom in Austria though. I probably would also, just to save him up for the weekend. Crucial match coming up against West Ham, which we'll touch on in a bit. Tangentially, from the most printed names on kits this year, number 2, Mohamed Salah, but number 1 as far as playmaking, scoring, assisting, etc., and number 1 as far as top African player in the Premier League in assists, breaking Riyad Mahrez's record. Mo currently sitting at 62 assists. A lot of tweets popping up. Oh, he's in his playmaker phase, etc., etc. He's no longer selfish. I think it's less that. I think it's just Mo just growing up as a player, and obviously I don't think he was ever really selfish, because his assist numbers, it's not as if this just started this year or last year. I just think we're just seeing a little bit more now. But Mohamed Salah, I guess my question would be to you guys and to the stream here, you guys on the stream, if we had sold Mohamed Salah with the Saudi clubs, sniffing around trying to grab him from us, and didn't sign a replacement, where would our goals be? I'll go over to you, Brandon.
Okay. It's a good question because it's like so much has been key so far down the right hand side. Obviously, we've adjusted. Louis Diaz has been playing, fantastic so far to start the season. I don't know where would our goals come from. Obviously, we'd be little be taking a step back as we kind of phase out of like what we have with Mo, who's just guaranteed to do something. I think I'm with you. Like the whole selfish thing, I think was just kind of a mislabel of a few incidents over the years where it seemed like there's people in way better positions. Obviously, when Sadio blew up during the Burnley game when he got subbed off and was throwing water bottles everywhere because he didn't get the ball. I think that's mostly where the selfish Salah kind of narrative kind of came from because
Yeah, with Mane, that whole blow up there. Yeah.
That was supposed to derail our title run. Then we, proceeded to win 27 of the opening 28 games or whatever it was. So no, he's been so key to everything. Where would they be coming from? Obviously, I think I think Yakpro has enough in him to move out to the right hand side. I know he's been more like left hand side playing centrally for us, but I think he could go out to the right hand side. We still have a lot of depth in attack, but obviously just not having that kind of perfect player for the system playing on the right hand side. And I think the same thing. He's not so much in a playmaker phase. It's just what the team needs right now is him to provide that pass, and that's what he's doing for us.
Definitely, and just outstanding. Dan, like, where would we be without Mo? I think obviously much less potent and less clutch. Who would be? Where would our goals and playmaking be coming from?
So, I agree. I think Mihai said this, and I think he stole it from me. So, even if he did, I'm just gonna say that he did, and just pretend it was my original person who said this. That I think Szoboszlai would be on the right wing, and he'd be our primary chance creator. I'm not here to say it would be anywhere near Mo's numbers, but I think we'd also see more Nunez constantly, so we wouldn't be able to pick and choose Darwin's games. I think we'd see more of Darwin as well. I think we'd also be heavily more reliant on Trent than we already are with the way that system went, or they would have to change the system to be a more 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1 like we saw against Wolves with a double pivot and essentially 4 forwards on the pitch. I think Mo Salah as a creator has always been underrated. Yes, I know. Yes, me and Mihai, he borrows my ideas a lot. He agrees with me because he recognizes genius when he sees it.
Mihai, the Arsenal fan, we call him the Arsenal.
Yeah, the Arsenal fan. Yeah, the Arsenal fan. That's the one thing we agree on, and I think I'm probably the one here that's been playing down Arsenal as a team probably the hardest next to Newcastle. And actually, the one team I've bigged up this year was Notts Forest, which is very interesting. But I think we worry too much about what the future looks like without Mohamed Salah. I think the framework's being built to replace Salah in the team once he's gone. Obviously, you can never find a direct replacement for Mohamed Salah just because he's just such unique as a footballer. There's nobody in the world that plays right wing, creates goals, and score goals. Like I said at the beginning of the season, I think Mohamed Salah is going to have 20 assists and 20 goals this year. I think he's going to break Henry's record that he set during the Prem. I think he's going to do it easily. I think he has 4 assists now, 5 assists. Is someone correcting me? Or is it 3? Or is it 3 right now? I was actually trying to look up the stats for me as well. But he already has 3 goals, and he already has 3 to 5 assists. So, this is without Darwin Nunez, playing Luton Town away or Luton Town at home. There are games where Salah's gonna have 5 assists. 4. Thank you, Rigo. 4 assists, and you consider the games
in 5 games.
In 5 games, and consider the teams we've played in the game states. Chelsea away, never needs a game. 2 games back to back with a red card and playing with 10 men and winning both games. One coming from behind where he provided the game-winning assist. This team is not even fit and firing. We had Van Dijk missing for 2 games. We had Gerald Kwanzaa start at center back last game against Wolves. Just think about all the different circumstances that would make Mo Salah ineffective, but he's just constantly there. He's constantly a threat. I know that this gets said a lot, and I don't want this to be to overpraise Salah, but it's the closest thing to Messi you can see in football. Someone who just not involved, and then bang, it's an assist, it's a perfect ball, it's a goal. You can't really replace that, but what you can do is kind of change the system around and change your focal point.
Yep, and we saw that in the comments as well, and. In the comments, like Paul said, where would it be without Mo? I'm glad we don't have to find out this year. Personally, myself, and I'll go real quick around the panel here. I am totally behind extending Mo an additional, if not one year, at least another 2 years on his contract. Protect that value, and I don't think his skills will be diminishing anytime soon. And his playmaking, again, it's just becoming just absolutely crucial to us. So I think he can definitely play to this level for at least another 3 seasons and play until his 40s. If he wants to go to the Saudi League eventually, that will always be there. But I myself would extend them. What about you, Brandon?
I would love it. I think Harvey Elliott came out and he said that he wants Mo to stay forever, and I'm 100% with that. I want Mo to retire with Liverpool. I want
Yes.
him to have that guard of honor walking out as he's about to hang it up for the last time, or he can come to Columbus and I can just absolutely love that, like every single home game seeing Mo play for my team down the way. So I mean, I wouldn't say no to
Feeding
that.
Mukhtar, right?
Yeah. No, yeah, I want him to retire, Red. I want him to be here forever. Like, Mo has just been so vital to all of this. I know sometimes he doesn't get quite the respect, or quite even from our own fans, he doesn't quite get the respect, or sometimes the expectation for some reason goes a little too high for what he's supposed to do. But he's met everything. Well, I think last year he had 49 goal contributions, if I'm thinking correct, like 19 goals, 30 assists, or something ridiculous. That
19 goals, 12 assists.
Okay, is that just the league?
In the Premier League, yeah.
Where did this from? I must be completely lost my mind. I'm sorry.
That's
No,
Premier League only, though. Yeah, I'm not looking at the all comps stats real quick. Hold on.
I still don't think he could have got 18 assists in the rest of the leagues. But
Well, he had a hat trick. No, he did have a hat trick in the Champions League, and he provided a lot of assists in the Champions League too, because Darwin had like a double here and there.
I still don't know if he's picking up that much. But anyways, the same thing. I mean, he's still on a down year was putting up really, really strong numbers in a team that was definitely in a transition mode. Like, he still puts up strong numbers even when it's not the expectation's not quite, or the team is not quite there. He still can put up his numbers.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely I'd look to extend them, and hopefully that does happen. Where are we? All right. Speaking of extensions, and before I jump into that, if you're on the stream, make sure to like and subscribe. I know the majority of you are likely subscribers hopping onto the stream at 9 p.m. Eastern, but make sure you hit like on that video. We do truly want it and appreciate it. But as I was saying, speaking of extensions, Ben Doak just penned a new long-term deal with the Reds. Very, very exciting to get him down for a longer-term contract. But all early signs point to an absolutely electric player, hard-nosed, tough, just a bastard. I think just an actual bastard on the pitch. He's just awesome. I just love seeing him run at players. How great was his purchase by buying him, and how excited are you guys for his future? I'll go to Dan first.
Oh, I'm absolutely ecstatic to see Ben Doak. Even last year, he was 16 and he skinned Luca Dean. I can't remember the last time I was excited for a 16-year-old to play since Sterling, or even Michael Owen back in the day, or even the young Jordan Ibe as well. I mean, I'm excited to see Doak because I think he's very much a throwback player, but in all the good ways. Like you mentioned, he's very much up for a fight. He's direct. The one thing he just needs to improve on is his decision making in the final third, like passing and shooting. But for a 17-year-old, and we're gonna watch him play, in the Europa League, we're gonna get a better idea of where his level's at. This guy's the limit. This is what you want to see. I think the last youth player we had that was coming up through the team was Brewster, and I think we would have seen more Brewster if he didn't have that terrible injury. I think it was in 2017 or something, 2017, 2018, because he came in at the very end of 2018, 2019. So, I mean, I think it's amazing. I think he's way better than Woodburn. I think he's probably one of the best youth prospects we have. This current crop of youth players, your Drew Kwanzas, your Bobby Clarks, your Ben Dokes, your Curtis Joneses, even your Doherty's coming up. I think they're the most exciting as well. No, I remember Woodburn, James. But the thing about Bryn Woodburn is that he suffered from the fact that no one knew what his best position was. So he played a wing. He played as an attacking mid. But Ben Doak is you know what he's
a winger.
Right? He's a winger. He's a right winger. He's direct. He's pacey. Woodburn never had pace. He was never big enough to be a center striker. He was skillful, but he didn't have pace to play in a Klopp midfield. So like Ben Woodburn just kind of got stuck in the sense of he just couldn't nail down a position. But Doak is way more exciting than Woodburn is, or was, I guess, at the time period as well. And no disrespect to Ben Woodburn, like he's a very good player and he'll probably have a good career. Is he on loan right now, or is he somewhere else?
No, he should be with Preston still.
Yeah, he's at Preston then. So like he's gonna have his own career. Yeah, and also Ben Woodburn suffered from injuries as well, so it just hit him at the worst time, and you can't always predict that as well. But Ben Woodburn was always more hope than potential. I think Doak is nothing but potential. I don't think we have to hope that Ben Doak has a good career. I think he will. It just depends on injury and development, all that stuff as well. But way more ready to play material than Ben Woodburn was.
Base of Flowers comment there. Woodburn was whittling to kindling. But over to you, Brandon. Excited about the extension of him, and follow-up question to that: do you see Ben Doak possibly as a Mohamed Salah successor in 2 to 3 years' time? We're obviously extending Mo another season or two.
Yeah, I would think he has to be on like kind of what we want to do is obviously not have to go spend $100 million on a player. If we can just develop our own next Mohamed Salah, that would be, the absolute perfect scenario where we spent $1 million on him, if I think correctly. Like $1 million,
or at least a reasonable facsimile. I mean, you're as we just said, you're not going to replace Mohamed Salah.
Right.
That's generational talent there, but at least a reasonable facsimile, if not below.
Yeah, because we don't know how much the style changes or what we can expect from what our wingers have to do. But yeah, like I think we get a little bit too focused sometimes on what other players are out there, the shiny new toy, instead of like really kind of taking a hard look at what we have coming through the academy. Dan just kind of went through like a whole bunch of different players like Doherty, who's Clark, who I really like as well. That's like kind of like what everybody wants to do. I think they do it all on FIFA and stuff like that. Eventually you just become where all your players are coming through your academy because you've got the best academy system and all that. That's what you want in real life. It's not, really something you can do, but we have a chance with Ben Woodburn. I'm beyond excited. And just to correct myself, I had flipped Mohamed Salah's goals and assists. He had 30 goals, all competitions, 16 assists last year. I had flipped it in my mind. But yeah, like with Ben Doak, I am beyond excited. This is like really good business for us to, signing for $1 million. He's developing. He's direct. He's just, as soon as he gets on the ball, you feel that when you're watching him, you're feeling the excitement. Like,
I feel the defenders.
Yeah, they're tensing up. Because he's
if you told me on Thursday night that Ben Doak was going to start, like I'd be excited to watch that game against Lask. I don't think he will, because I think Klopp's going to go strong and try to win like the first 3-4 games, because if he wins the first 4, we win the group and we don't have to play the round of 32. But yeah, no, I absolutely agree with everything you said, Brendan. Like he's he's the real deal. It just depends on all those other factors that we have with.
That was like the like little beacon of the crappy part of like not making the Champions League. I'm like, well, now we'll get to see Ben Doak play European football. So that was like kind of like the little, if you got to take a little grain of happiness out of last season, was like, hey, we get to see a little bit more of the youngsters and what they can develop into.
Definitely, and with Mohamed Salah leaving in January to the AFCON Cup.
I thought you were going to say they were going to buy. They were
no.
I
can't go harping about an extension and then talk about him leaving. No, when he goes to play for Egypt in the AFCON, we do need someone on that right side. I don't think it'll be Ben. Obviously, I think he'll perhaps come off the bench. A lot of those matches, I'm sure one of the more senior players will take up that right wing spot instead. Perhaps Szoboszlai, as Dan as well as Mihai have kind of pushed towards. But I think loaning him was not the way to go, and I'm very glad we did not loan him out this season. All right, so from Ben Doak, I'll go with some of the chat comments here instead of our instead of our next topic. So the whole topic as far as the academy, like you mentioned, as far as shiny new toys, we always want the next hottest player on the market, et cetera, and we kind of lose sight of what we do have at home. That applies to in a lot of different areas, right, in life. But with our academy. And what Man City has been able to do is basically build up their academy to the point that these other Premier League clubs are buying their academy prospects who have not played any Premier League ball at all, basically, for pretty great sums. And with that, they're funding their Vardios, their Jeremy Doku's, their et ceteras, to try and make those books appear a little less shady. Uh, but yeah, how much would a Doak, an Elliott, or Jones be worth on the open market if they were to go on the market instead of and it, by us not kind of appreciating what we have in house? Because not Doak, but Elliott has certainly received so much flack from the fan base, especially last year. This year, I think he's just been lights out coming off the bench. Uh, Curtis Jones, again, a lot of heat from the fan base. We've gone our on unbeaten run, 16-match unbeaten run, and I think he's played 14 of those, if around 14 of those. So there has to be something there. Don't we need to focus more on that than actually trying to, as a fan base, always looking for the next thing? Shouldn't we get behind our boys and try and get them to that world class level? Any one of you. This is
that's kind of what I was saying. Is like, we don't need to limit their development with the shiny new toy if we think they're going to have a better future than that shiny new toy does. Like, if we go sign, say Jeremy Doku was one we went and got, but he limits Ben Doak's development, and in-house we think Ben Doak has a higher ceiling. Why are we doing that? Why are we spending that much money for somebody that we think is not going to be as good as somebody we already have in-house? Open market, I mean, it's completely broken. So it's so hard to actually rate what prices are going to be because we're seeing guys with like 13 minutes of professional football under their belt going for 30+ million pounds. It's like, well, Curtis Jones is a really good midfielder, as we've seen down the stretch. I think his age would be a little bit against him. I'd still say, I mean, at this point, 50+ million at least. Like,
yeah,
all three of them would be 50+.
100 Premier League matches with Liverpool.
It's like, he's proven, time and time again, it's like he's got quite a bit of potential. He's, not bereft of confidence whatsoever. So, I mean, yeah.
I think you can make the argument that Curtis Jones is a better midfielder than Sandro Tonali. And I will make that argument that he's a better overall midfielder than Sandro Tonali. I'm not throwing shade here. I'm just being completely honest. I think you could say that Curtis Jones could go for 80 million because there's really nothing he can't do. Like, he can, like, I keep saying this, and I know me and Maddie are on the Curtis Jones train, but I've always said that he could be the best youth prospect we've produced since Gerrard. I know people say Trent is obviously the best one because of passing, but I'm saying as a midfielder, because there's nothing he can't do. I mean, he's 6'1", he's tall, he's strong, he can hold the ball up, he can play the ball, he can strike a ball good, like he can score, any sort of goal and any sort of system. He can pretty much do anything. Like, so, I would say that Curtis Jones is easily like 80 million. I would actually say the one that has been mentioned in this list is Jerome Kwanzaa. I think the reason they didn't buy a center back this year is because they looked at Jerome Kwanzaa. They said, I think Kwanzaa is, better than Ngape at this moment in time, or Ignacio. And I'm not saying that obviously we think this, but I think they're looking at them and like, Gonzalo Ignacio, he's not as tall as Kwanzaa. He's not as big. Ngape is an idea. But Kwanzaa himself, is 6'3". He's fit on his body. He's fast. He's not slow. He's good on the ball. Like,
you see, like, he's impressive.
Oh yeah, and I think the thing about Kwanzaa and these youth players is that like, we get so obsessed with the new shiny thing because that's just the nature of being a football fan. We always want the new shiny thing as well. But I think in house they're looking around and they're like, again, Klopp, what he said was like, like, I love these boys, I can work with them. I'm not saying that they shouldn't buy other players. I think we should learn to appreciate youth players, but no one watches the youth matches, so we can't appreciate them until they start playing games.
Yeah, and I think the physically thing, Kwanzaa, like, does, like, seeing the difference between him and like Reece Williams a couple years ago, like the physicality of it, he did not look one bit out of place outside the fact he wore 78 like on the pitch. Like, that's the only thing that looked out of place was his number. Like, Reece Williams looked like if, like, Antonio, who we're probably about to talk about, went up against him, like, he's probably going to run him over. So like,
yeah.
So we're speaking compared to actual, like, a man's body.
Yeah, and in both Reece Williams and Nat Phillips' defenses, like, when you're a youth player, like, your body just fills out differently at different times. Like I said, Reece Williams, he's very tall and lanky. He hasn't built into his body still. He's like 20, 21. I think he may be 22 now. So, like, everyone ages differently. Like, Matoma, who everyone raves about at Brighton, is a late bloomer player. Takumi Minamino was a late blooming player.
Player
Salah
of the
was,
month in League On.
yeah, exactly. Even Salah, Mohamed Salah was a late blooming player. Like, he really didn't start blowing up until like 23 when he was at Roma. So, like, as a player, like, his stats and everything else, like, before that he was a Chelsea flop like Kevin De Bruyne. Like Kevin De Bruyne came to City when he was like, what, 24, 25? So, like, we get so caught up in like the now, the immediate. We forget that Jude Bellingham is like the exception, not the rule. Like, everyone's like, why are we missing on Bellingham? Well, Bellingham's a once in a generation talent. Chouameni is arguably a once in a generation, midfield talent. So, like, these are very like once every 10-year players that develop, and that there's actually a lot of other good players out there that you can develop as well. And I think what we have with Kwanzaa is I think he's better than Colwell right now. Like, I don't think, or let me rephrase that, I think him and Colwell are comparable. I don't think if you looked at Levi Colwell and Joel Kwanzaa, there's a really big difference between the players, except one played 16 games for Brighton and one played 16 games for Bristol Rovers.
Definitely. And, instead of taking a gamble on a guy that you hope will fit your system and might be really good, obviously doing well. For example, Ignacio doing very well in Portuguese league, but you have someone in house who's been putting in those hard hours, that effort into becoming a better player, and you see the growth from the youth academy up until getting into first team practice. When you get invited to first team practice, I think you kind of have to reward that. And all this flies in the face of Evan Ferguson's comments in the past couple of weeks, as far as, I could go to Liverpool, but they'll buy a $60 million striker. They don't develop their players, or getting to the first team is much more difficult. I think it's been proven time and again with Jurgen that if you're worthy, you're going to be with the squad. And we've seen that with Curtis Jones. He's been involved since forever now. He's, again, 100 Premier League matches, limited obviously by injury and others ahead of him, but he's been with that first team squad for 5 years now, 4 at least. And you'll see that time and again, I think, with Jurgen, if you prove yourself. And Kwanzaa is our most recent and latest example of that. And I think we can all agree we were very trepidatious with the prospect of going in without any center back reinforcements, but Jarrell Kwanzaa's performance and his maturity, I think, has calmed down the lot of us. So very, very happy to see that. All right, Frank and Vase of Flowers, you guys want to get on the private chat? You guys are setting up like a podcast appointment there. I'm just ripping you guys. Go ahead. All right, let's see. Right there. Yes, red, white, and red. Harvey, Trent, Jones, Bastecic, Doak, etc. We give youth a chance 100%, and it's been working out.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about Titch.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, do you guys know how old Hummels and I think it was Subotic were when Dortmund won the title? Do you know how old they were? Yeah, Subotic. They were center backs.
Young. Like 21, 22?
No, they were both 19. They were both 19 when they won in 2011. So, I mean, like, this is the best manager for, like, youth development. Like, the one thing about Klopp versus every other manager, including, the great Pep Guardiola, is that Klopp can develop youth players. Pep doesn't really develop youth players. I mean, you can say Phil Foden's the obvious example, but again, that's a once-in-a-generation English talent, and he's still, like, maybe...
Still not a regular.
Yeah, he's still not regular. And I would still say there's nothing that Phil Foden does that Curtis Jones can't do, except he's probably just faster. But again, that's not an insult. I think Foden's a great player. Like, again, this is not me.
Foden is spicy, man. Come on, Foden.
He is, but again, I don't think there's anything Phil Foden does that Curtis Jones couldn't do. Like, if you told
I think they're that's a side conversation, but I think they're way different players, man.
Okay, they are way different players because the way they play, like, Foden's a very vertical player. Jones is very much like he's a winger that's come backwards, so he plays more what you would say back to goal, build the play, back post play. He's very much more Frankie Lamps, and you would argue that Foden's very much more of a Paul Gascoigne, very direct, very good technique on the ball. Again, but my point being is the fact that if you ask Curtis Jones to do a rendition, he would look a lot like Phil Foden. I do think they are different players and obviously different skill levels, and one is much better than the other. But again, I think at times we overhype certain players compared to our own. Like we act like Manu Kone is like the reincarnation of Claude Makelele compared to like Steve Sevenbach. And again, I would still buy Manu Kone. We just undervalue our own players because if they're not playing, no, Phil Foden does not have better hair. Don't say that. Not with that that mank 1990s bowl cut he's got going on. Like Curtis Jones is way better. It's just the highlights that are probably not great.
So, excuse me, I'm just trying to reply back to the messages here. All right, red, white, and red. Foden better hair than who? Curtis? Get out of here. Don't make me kick you out the chat, man. Come on. Foden with all he has is like a couple of designs here every so often. You got to give Curtis that credit for the curls. All right. Foden hair is clear, bro. All right.
I think he's a City fan. That's just ridiculous.
Ban J Muse trying to ban him. Oh man, blasphemous over here. All right. Once again, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. All right, moving along from Ben Doak to our Youth Academy system. Let me skip over the next topic. I want to touch on Jurgen before I go and we kind of dive into who our weekend competition is. Jurgen Klopp, our manager, has finally addressed rumors of coaching Germany's national team. News came out earlier today that Julian Nagelsmann has accepted the position of at least interim manager of the German national squad, at least through the 2024 Euros. And yes, J Muse, Germany is a mess currently. But I kind of want to throw out some quotes at you guys that Jurgen shared with the Sports Witness. We're building Liverpool 2.0 here. We want to attack again and not just look at how much longer we can go on. Exciting. Next quote. I have loyalty to Liverpool. My heart is here in Liverpool. Boom, boom. Next quote. And again, sorry for all the reading. I just want to share these. You can't just cut out the 8 years. I signed a contract here. As far as I can remember, I wasn't drugged or tied up or had a sign with my mouth. All right. Certainly didn't sign with Chelsea. That's not a Chelsea contract signing there. All right. So Jurgen arrived at Liverpool back in 8 years ago now, next month. And by the time he serves his contract, if it's not extended, he'll be here for 11 years. Longest tenure of his career, obviously, and he's currently Liverpool's longest-serving manager since Bill Shankly. Now, that's obviously legendary status there. And surprisingly to me, Jurgen is actually the fourth longest-serving Premier League, has the fourth longest-serving record in the Premier League as far as a manager, behind, obviously, Arsene and Sir Alex and, etc. I'm super excited with this news. Not with this news, but with this interview and this feedback from Jurgen. I see a super re-energized guy. Some of the quotes he let out when the topic of Jordan Henderson came up kind of even cemented it more. He's like, "You ain't playing, bro." we got new players here. I'm just super excited for us. I think we obviously hit supremely high goals with the squads back in 2018, 2019, and the 2 years after that, winning the Champions League as well as the Premier League. Is Liverpool 2.0 going to be even greater than Liverpool 1.0? I think we're loading for bear, and I think we're going to be even better than what we did previously. I'll go over to you, Brandon, first. What do you think Liverpool 2.0 is going to shake out to be?
I think it would be a better squad overall. I think obviously with the addition of like Szoboszlai, McAllister, you're adding a little bit more goal threat, especially with Szoboszlai in the midfield, which is what those teams really didn't have, was that they couldn't, set a rocket off from 25 yards out to, kind of change a game if they're sitting in a low block. I think the biggest thing that will kind of be the toughest thing for this team is not just Manchester City who has all the money. We also now have Newcastle who has all the money, and we're having to deal with these teams. Obviously with how transfers are going. Bournemouth spending more than Bayern or whoever out there, and it's like there's so much money being thrown around. It'll be easy for us if obviously we've had our ownership talks in the past, like, if they're not willing to back the squad this time, we won't be able to hit those heights or know when to go in. Like, because they did know when to go in after the Champions League loss and they got Fabinho and they went and signed like 4 or 5 players like immediately. And then once we won the Champions League, it kind of tapered off. And then we saw the big drop off last year of whenever they should have been rebuilding a couple years ago. I still think this team will be better than what that team was, but whether they can achieve the same goals as they did, that's going to be a little bit of a different task with all the different things going on in the Premier League now.
Definitely, a lot of extraneous factors that definitely coming into play.
In the chat, Saudi will also be a big determining factor of what goes on, because you never know what happens when they turn their head with, "Hey, you want $50 million tax free for one season of play?" So I mean, you don't know what that can turn anybody's head.
Definitely. Dan, what about you? Do you think Liverpool 2.0 can reach or exceed the heights of Liverpool 1.0?
I think they can exceed it in terms of like what we see on the pitch. I don't know if they can exceed one, because Klopp's going to be here for a few more years. I don't know if they can exceed that trophy haul, considering the fact that literally like a little bit more than a year ago, it was a team on the edge of essentially completing football, and then we all just pack it in as football fans. No one's ever doing that again. I mean, City's never going to do a quadruple. Yeah, they had a treble last year and they were great, but they're not going to do a quadruple, not that close. I think we'll see a Liverpool team that is that can match all those heights. The question is, can they get over the line? I think that was the one thing about Liverpool 1.0 that everyone criticized for so many years. It's like, can this team get over the line? Is Henderson good enough? Is Genie good enough? Is Milner, should Milner be your backup right back? And considering everything we won, everyone complained for years how we didn't have cover for the front three, and if we had cover for the front three, we would have won the title and the FA Cup in 2018, 2019, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like these arguments have been going on since essentially Klopp took over, with obviously FSG still being the owners of Liverpool. I think they can go above and beyond, just because this is, again, the best squad that they've had since the quadruple year, in my opinion. Like, I know we keep saying it's the smallest squad, but if you look at first player to 23rd, 24th player, I don't think any team is that deep, even Chelsea. Like, Chelsea have spent $1 billion, they still have 12 players injured and need to buy 12 more. I think right now, when you look at this Liverpool team, there's nothing they can accomplish, and I think they know that, and that's where it gets me the most excited. Because if you remember going back to the start of the year, Gakpo was saying we can win the league. Dominik Szoboszlai, after I think the Bournemouth game, he's like, I'm not afraid of City. I don't care about City. We're just gonna focus on us and win the league. These players are coming in with a hunger and a mentality of, what happened in the past, we don't care about that. That wasn't our fault. Even Jones, even Van Dijk, even Trent, they're just looking at each other. Yeah, because it's because they look at each other like, yeah, we can play. I think the greatest sad story of Liverpool 1.0 was just the injuries. And that's to Keita, to Chamberlain, because if they never had their injury issues, I think Chamberlain was the fact that he got injured at the wrong times. If those guys did not get injured, they would be part of this 2.0, which we can argue about whether or not they should be a part of it anyways.
A lot of sliding doors were at that point.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But I think that, I think if they stay injury free, Liverpool win 1 or 2 more trophies. And it's not because, it's not because, they would replace Henderson or Wijnaldum. It's because if they had stayed injury free, we would be fine. If Van Dijk doesn't get his legs snapped in half by Jordan Pickford, I think we win the league in 2020, because we were essentially leading the league until December, and then all of our center backs got injured, and then we were playing Henderson and Fabinho. So I think this 2.0 team is going to be fun I think it's going to be like we've literally seen them do the impossible 2 games in a row. Well, I guess 3 now if you want to include Wolf, which is go down, almost lose a man, and still win the game. And it'll look so easy. Like they look at each other like, oh, we don't care if we go 1-0 down. This is easy. We know what this is like. The one thing we don't know about this team is what happens if they're 2-0 down or 3-0 down. But I would back them to score 4 goals, whatever it took to win. Like I would still back them. I
hope you have the next leg at home if that's the case.
Yeah, exactly. No, they would be like, oh, we got this next game. Don't worry. And I think this shouldn't go without saying. I think every player's gotten better. Like even Jota's still like good. Like the fact that we sit here and complain about Jota's build-up play when this man scores like 10 goals every season, which is not something to snuff at, considering the fact that Chelsea have had a player score less than 10 goals 2 years in a row, and that was Jorginho and Kai Havertz. I look at Nunez and I see someone who's ready to explode. Diaz, I think, easily scored 15 to 20 goals this year. Like I'm looking at
the signs are there on the growth of guys who haven't fully hit their stride, that we're like this close to just really just exerting our dominance. I feel
absolutely. And if we can, I think we can score 100 goals this year in the league, not just in all comps, easily. Like we scored more than once, except outside of Chelsea, and that Chelsea game was already kind of weird. Well, I don't think Matip's so much of regressing as much as everyone else is just better. I think Matip's always still been Matip. Like his level in the past years has been the same.
I think he's slowing down. He's not as quick.
There's
a few things there. But Matip is Matip. Like he's again, and with this Liverpool 2.0, I know a lot's been made of Jurgen as far as being too beholden to his players, the guys who've been there through in the trenches and through the wars with him, and holding on to them a little too long. But in certain situations, sometimes it is called for. Like you do need guys in that locker room for the vibe, for what they bring to the team, not just necessarily on the pitch, but obviously as far as team chemistry is concerned. The guy who left, not the Brazilian guy, but the other guy who left, I never really pictured him as a real vibes guy, a real like get along with everyone in the locker room type deal. And as has come out, Jurgen obviously didn't felt that he wouldn't be a good soldier playing less either. So with that being the case, that's obviously not in the team's best interest. But I feel like the switch of captaincy from previous guy to Virgil has also shifted the entire vibe around this team. And I know a lot of questions were raised. Where would the leadership come from? Who's going to step in, et cetera, et cetera. This team has stepped in, and as Brandon has mentioned, as Dan, as you've mentioned, in really bad spots already this year, 5 matches in, and come through it with flying colors. So
we'll think how many captains we brought into the team. Wataru Endo is the captain of Japan. People have talked about, well, how good is Wataru Endo? I think he's going to be perfectly suitable and fine. Like we're going to watch Wataru Endo say, like, oh yeah, he's pretty decent. Nick Szoboszlai is the captain of Hungary, and they haven't lost the games since being captain. Like Ben Dykes are the captain of England. Let's see if I can that. Kwanzaa is the captain of the U18s. Rabo's captain of Scotland. Who's the captain of Brazil?
Gakpo was the captain of PSV before he moved over to us.
Exactly. Salah is the captain of Egypt, I believe. And who captains?
Mane was the captain of Senegal back in the day, but yeah, he's gone. But
who captains Colombia? I don't know if anybody knows that because I don't know off the top of my head.
That should still be Ospina. David Ospina.
So Ospina. And what about Brazil? Who captains Brazil? It's not Alisson, is it? Is it Casemiro still?
Alisson isn't even the starter at the moment, which I'm okay with. I'm sorry. And same thing for Trent. I hope Southgate never looks at him and leaves Trent alone. He's played too many minutes already.
Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on obviously Jordan Henderson. I will always love Henderson for what he was for us as Liverpool as a player. Somebody I really enjoyed having, and I think he brought a lot of his. I think he brought a lot of traits that I think as the team evolves to 2.0 into 3.0, I think we'll find out that a lot of that foundation for that first team came from Hendo. I don't know. I mean, it's difficult because what I got from that Klopp interview was like Henderson said everything right, and it seems to be more that Hendo just didn't want to play the fiddle anymore, which he didn't want to play second fiddle because he saw what Lallana went through, what Milner went through, and perfectly fine to Jordan Henderson. He's like, I want to play international football, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I just feel like Henderson made a bad choice because if he stayed at Liverpool, he probably starts the last 5 games. I know you've been mad at that. We probably would have seen a lot of midfields of Jordan Henderson, Alexis McAllister, and probably Dominik Szoboszlai. Like, I know, but it probably would have still been pretty good. We probably still would have won some of those games. I think it's one of those things where, we were all worried about it, but all the players we brought in are just a good sort. Even Gravenberch, obviously the international thing going on, but Ryan Gravenberch looks like he's just a good guy. Like, he learned all the staff members' names in like the first week. So I think we've transitioned. I know people have said like it's kind of ugly because of the way the summer went, but I think most people in there are like, hey, it is what it is. It's a business. We say bye to him.
It's played out perfectly for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think if that guy had stayed, and obviously we got everyone who we got, but if that guy had stayed, as Football Gossiper says here, he would have been a problem. He would not be vibing when we came back. He would not be vibing the way the squad is. For example, Virgil at the end of the Wolves match came down and is hugging every player as they walk off the pitch. I don't know. I don't want to go back, look too far back. I want to look forward, but again, I think it was a necessary excitement in order for this Liverpool 2.0 to actually be a 2.0.
I do agree with that. And I think it will benefit us in the long term rather than holding him. I do want to agree with that. Even as a Henderson fan club, president of the Joe Gomez committee and the Jordan Henderson committee, I will admit that it is better with Henderson leaving than with him staying. I don't know what you think about that, Brandon.
Yeah, that's how I feel like it's best that we move. We kind of forced our hand to let him go, which was nice because obviously we've had these issues of holding on players a little bit too long. To have somebody force our hand, get him off the books. And I mean, we probably don't get Gravenberch if we don't do it, if I'm thinking correctly.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'd rather have Brian Gravenberch than Jordan Henderson. Yeah. Like Jordan Henderson at 33 playing like he's 35. I'd rather have Brian Gravenberch any day.
Yeah, and I feel like the captain style for Virgil is very loose, a little bit more laid back. It just kind of feels that way. And I feel like it's perfect for what this team kind of seems like so far. It seems like a very fun, loose group that is just here to ball out. So
yeah, I think I think the mentality is everyone is going to do their job, and I don't need to yell at you every 3 seconds for you to do your job.
Yeah, Hendo was very rigid in how he because that's how he got to where he was. He had to put his nose to the grindstone. I mean, Rodgers.
And again, all respect to Hendo. He captained us to the greatest of heights. We won the Champions League. We won the Premier League for the first time in 30 years. He ran his behind off until for the past 2 years, he didn't have any more legs. And again, respect to him for what he did, but also, I guess I got to say respect to him for bolting when he did in order to help out the club. In the end, it was the right decision. And I'm glad it did happen. All right. Off of Jurgen Klopp, off of Jordan Henderson, we are now Liverpool 2.0. And Jay Muse, right into my next topic. He's smoking PCP or angel dust or something else because Mikel Antonio just went wild with his quotes with regards to Liverpool this week. A couple of tasty ones. Let's see. Mikel Antonio thinks West Ham will breeze past Liverpool on the weekend and finish above them in the league. Quote, I saw how Wolves played against Liverpool. We've got them this weekend. We're finishing above Liverpool this season. Quote, my question to you is, what do you think Liverpool are playing for this year? Even if you don't replace the man, Salah, let's call it this season a write-off. And third quote I have here, again on Mohamed Salah. Mohamed Salah didn't turn down that Saudi move, no way. He was locked up, and the Reds had put that red arrow across. You are not going anywhere. To be fair to him, he didn't kick up a fuss, but I know for a fact he was ready to go. All right. A few things to digest from that. All right. Firstly, is West Ham a better team than Liverpool?
Do we have to answer
No,
that?
no. You saw them against City. No, I mean they've had a good start, but no,
Yeah.
God no.
No, not even. No, not even
Not at
close.
all.
Yeah, I
Like,
can't
like,
think of something funny or whippy to say. It's like, yeah, it's
like
no.
who would you take? Paqueta maybe, but who are you replacing for Paqueta? Like Szoboszlai, McAllister. I mean, you could argue maybe he could be in those job, but I mean Suchek maybe, but Suchek's like he's not as good as he was like 3 or 4 years ago with Rice. Like, yeah, West Ham are a better team right now because they're playing counterattacking football, but anyone looks good when you're playing counterattacking football. No.
I mean, bring Antonio in just to talk shit to other teams. I mean, that's basically the best thing he's got going for him right now.
I actually love Mikel Antonio a lot as like a character and as a
I
player.
do. This is why I'm like, what are you doing?
Like, maybe you know what? Maybe because there's been so many betting, he put a bet on Liverpool to smash West Ham, and now he's like gassing them up, so like they lose 3-0. But he has someone put a bet on him to lose 3-0 to Liverpool.
Watch him pull up with a bad hammy on Friday, and he can't make the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
checks his entire team's gonna have to cash.
So I find this funny about Antonio because, like, yeah, if Mikel Antonio is going to get Joel Matip, Jerome Kwanzaa, and Joe Gomez, on the weekend, then yeah, he might have a point. They might beat us for like the first half, but I think he's going up against Virgil van Dijk, Ivo Konate, and probably Joe Gomez as right back, which I don't know about Antonio, but I don't want to run against Konate, Gomez, and Van Dijk in that back line, and try to bang off them and get goals. Like, you remember what Troy Deeney said about Virgil van Dijk? He's like, he just smells good, man. Like, you're going to play on him for like 5 minutes, you're not going to get something. Like, who are you going to play off? He's going to try and play off Gomez. Well, he's going to be all the way on the right wing. So, like, good luck, Antonio. You're not going to score any goals in there as well. Listen, I love West Ham. I'm all for the West Ham vibes in the sense of, like, they won a trophy for the first time since, like, the Cold War or, like, World War II.
Bubbles.
Yeah, like, I'm all for the vibes and everything, but, like, this is ridiculous. Like, come on, Mikhail. Like, come on. Mikhail, what are you doing?
I get as a competitor, you don't want to sit there and say, yeah, they're better than us, or, there's no chance we can finish ahead of them. Obviously, you got to, as a competitor, say, yeah, we're here to win. We're here to, try to win the league, even if, there's no real chance West Ham. I mean, I get it as a competitor, but at the same time, you're going to Anfield. You don't need to be throwing fuel on the fire. It's just a bad idea.
Is this game at Anfield, Rigo? Is this at Anfield? This man's trying to. Okay. You know what? I think I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to get them all riled up and try for the just so more people watch the game. Because what West Ham are going to do? They're just going to put 10 men behind the ball for 40 minutes and try to win it in like a 5-minute period, and they're going to turn every game of football into a 5-minute game.
So, and point brought up by RWR here. I love bro, like a footballer turned podcaster, get his clicks, and this is the other side of the coin. We, at least in the American media, whenever there's a player interview, it's all scripted. It's the cliched team quotes, doing it one day at a time, one game at a time, et cetera, et cetera. On the other side of the coin, I'm kind of in agreement here with RWR. Loving that these players now, obviously, with Twitter, they were able to put out their message, Instagram, etc. But now they're actually going on shows, or in this case, starting off their own podcast and providing a little bit more honesty, if not entertainment and freedom in their conversation. So I personally, I'm all for it, but I think he was way off his rocker with this one.
Yeah. Callum Wilson told him, like, I think he's wanted to have those dreams again. So obviously Wilson looked at him like, you're saying what, mate? Is your head rolled off your head? So obviously it is very clickbaity, and you know how Mikel Antonio, he's just one of the boys. He's just trying to rile everybody up. Liverpool win, I don't know, 3-0, 3-1. Antonio goes into the game. Yeah, they were just better than us. They're really good.
Definitely. But yeah, Mikel Antonio, really likable guy on the general. his podcast with what's his name, Wilson
Callum Wilson
from
at
Lookout,
Newcastle.
Callum Wilson, and it is pretty good. But yeah, just wanted to bring that up here, and we're over at the hour 5 mark. All right, looking to wrap it up real quick. And good night to you, Frank. Thanks for joining, mate. All right. To wrap it up, a little more lighthearted news before transfers and players spouting crap about Liverpool. That Pepsi commercial, guys. Thoughts on it?
That was the most awkward thing I've ever watched. It was just like anytime Mo came on the screen, it was just like it was jarring. It was so jarring watching that. Like I couldn't finish it. It was just it was nails on a chalkboard for me. Like every time Mo came on the screen with that deep fake like looking face that he had going on. And I think there's a point where he jumped over a like wall or something like that, and it just you could just tell it was not Mo at all. It was just so awkward.
All right, what about you, Dan?
I've actually not seen the Pepsi advert, so I have no idea what we're referencing. So you guys have to send this to me. I have not watched this at all. I'm sorry. I'm sure it's hilarious and everything else because like I love our boys, but they're not actors. None of them are going to acting.
It's Mo and Lovren in a Pepsi commercial.
So they're going off like their bro thing. Yeah, that's gonna be cringe. Listen, I love Dejan Lovren. I don't love his political views or like his conspiracy theories, but I love Dejan Lovren. I love that they're still friends after all these years. Considering the fact it's one of Liverpool's best players and one of Liverpool's. I think when we first bought Dejan Lovren, I think people wanted to fire him out of a cannon after his first season at Liverpool. But I gotta watch this now. I'm so sorry I've not seen this, guys. I'm disappointing all of you.
All right. Get on there, man. You kind of killed the chat here about it. But anyway, I'll forgive you, Dan. Basic premise of the commercial, Mohamed Salah and Dejan Lovren are in Egypt, and they're hungry. So they're basically running around from spot to spot. As they see food, they go and get food. At the end of their fun day, Mo's thirsty. And the best thing to him to quench that thirst turned out to be a Pepsi. So that's the basic gist of it. Mo and Dejan are out on the day as best friends, out and about in Egypt, enjoying Egypt's greatest street foods. So I thought it was I personally thought it was a great ad at showcasing their friendship as well as other aspects of Egypt you might not be familiar with, apart from obviously.
Okay, I just got done watching it. Yeah, it's actually kind of really cute. I actually really enjoy it. It's really campy,
Yeah, like I thought it was like awesome, like perfect. Like if Mo's gonna advertise something, I think that'd be like the way he'd go about it.
It's really sweet.
All right. Where is he? Where's my man? My man. All right, Paul Lindo. Holy cow! Did we clickbait the crap out of you guys tonight, or what? Paul, we got you. We got you, Paul. No, I'm kidding. The report that we saw and we kind of led the podcast with, and I totally goofed on and did not bring up, is according to Defensa Central, Real Madrid are perhaps interested in Reece James filling in or taking over Carvajal at the right back position. And in order to make that work, Chelsea would look to get Fede Valverde back.
Of course, Chelsea would sign a midfielder. Like they only have like 40 of them at this point. Like they're gonna spend 80 million, give Real Madrid 80 million for Federico Valverde. No, we don't need him. Who cares? I mean, he's a good player. We could sign him and have him play right back. You know what? When Mo leaves, we'll sign Valverde, turn him into a defensive right winger, and we'll just have it where he's just playing defense right winger and Trent plays like attacking right winger.
Yeah, I saw this report and I was like, Real Madrid do need a right back because Carvajal is almost on his last legs, but Reece James,
who has no legs, he can't run. Like he's always injured.
Yeah, it's like isn't that crazy stat where like most like over a ridiculous amount of his games are still played at Wigan when he was on loan. Like some of his like games are still at Wigan.
He hasn't played a full season except at Wigan. Like I think he's had more injuries than he's had assists for Chelsea or in his career. Actually, let me rephrase that. I think he's had like 18 injuries and 15 career assists.
Mm-hmm.
So he's had more injuries than he's had assists, and people keep comparing him to Trent, which I think I think it's just criminal at this point. Listen, I like Reece James as a player. He seems like he's a very fun bloke. Diehard Chelsea, pure Chelsea. Absolute. Which I hate saying because I cringe saying that out loud because just Chelsea's a clever cringe. But yeah, so I feel like if Madrid wants to buy Reece James, that's the downfall of Real Madrid. That's their Ousmane Dembele, say Neymar moment, where they're like, all right, we're just going to have 18 players. They're going to make like $1 million a week, and we're going to go bankrupt in 10 years.
Yeah, I just thought it was absolutely wild. And with that, we kind of roped it in because, again, Real Madrid are looking perhaps to get a new right back. And with that, there's also news that Liverpool are going to look to extend Trent's contract as well to kind of temper and put off any prying eyes that might be looking over to our resident scouts on the team. So yeah, that's another extension I would hope to see come to fruition very soon. All right, Liverpool 12 man. I'll try and get you last question. All right, here it is. Here it is. All right, Liverpool 12 man has a question for the panel as well as the chat. Start, bench, drop. Sell these midfields. Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, City. Oh, it's start, bench, drop, sell. First of all, I said it wrong. But all right, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, City. I'll let Brandon go first because his name comes first in the alphabet.
Okay, fair enough. Start, I'd go. Obviously, we're going Liverpool. I'm going to be as homer as can be on that one. Start Liverpool. Bench, I guess we'd go. I'll go Arsenal. Do I? Oh man, drop. I guess City and then sell Chelsea. Just sell Chelsea. Like they're going to be selling them anyway in a couple years, and it doesn't matter. So, and buying new ones every single transfer window.
So,
all right.
So I broadly agree. Start Liverpool, but instead of bench Arsenal, I want to bench City because it's Rodri, and Rodri's just like way better than Declan Rice. I'm sorry, I know people love Declan Rice, but Declan Rice is a good player. He's not Rodri yet. Drop. I'm going to drop Arsenal. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to drop Chelsea. I'm going to sell all of Arsenal's midfield because they're all overpriced. Sell all of Arsenal's midfield, and I'm going to buy Federico Valverde, and he'll do all their jobs at once.
All right, and last but not least, myself. I'm gonna start our Liverpool midfield. I am going to put on the bench the City midfield, and I'm going to drop Arsenal. I don't want no Kai Havertz. Get out of here. And I'm going to go ahead and sell all of Chelsea's midfield because we can recoup a good amount of money. Even though they paid high prices on them, they're still all young players. So let's get that bank.
Yeah, sell Caicedo to us. How about that? We'll make that work. We'll make it worth Chelsea's time.
I'll keep Caicedo.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. We'll just sell Caicedo to Liverpool and like sell Lavia to, I don't know, Liverpool, Tranmere Rovers, so he can be close to Liverpool but not play for Liverpool.
I'll send him to Preston. Preston's coming up anyway.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Preston is coming up, so we can go to Preston North End. That would be fun if to see Preston North End and Notts Forest. Well, Everton's going to get relegated, so I guess the new Merseyside derby is Preston North End and Liverpool. We're getting back to the 1900s.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, an hour, almost 15 minutes in. You guys have been absolutely awesome. Dan, Brandon, love the conversation tonight. Those on the chat and who joined on the live stream, thank you guys so much for sticking it with us. I know it's a late hour for the vast majority of you. I hope you all have a great night. Before you click X on this window or exit out of your YouTube app on your phone, make sure to hit like and subscribe. Helps us out tremendously. We love bringing you these conversations and content. Please show us the love back. For myself, Rigo, Dan, and Brandon, we bid you adieu from Star Stripes and Anfield Nights. Have a great night.